Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Djarin for the last 2 years has really made great strides in pushing Mandalorian culture into the mainstream's collective consciousness. It made us forget about the meh sequel trilogy, and it made us believe, at least for a short time, that Disney could be hands-off enough to actually allow some decent content to be created with the Star Wars license. More importantly, Djarin and the Baby Go-Gurt also made us believe in goodness during a terrible period of time when a dolphin-released plague ravaged the Earth. And for that, I will always forever be grateful to Djarin and the Mandalorian TV series. But today I want to ask the question, now that the book of Boba Fett is coming out, who is actually stronger? Who's the apex Mandalorian? Is it Djarin or Boba Fett? We'll be taking a look at each fighter's mentality, their equipment, and fighting style, and try to come up with an answer. Djarin, like many Mandalorians, was a foundling, an orphan child adopted from the battlefield. His village had come under attack during the Clone Wars by a group of separatist battle droids. They slaughtered everyone, including his family. Death Watch happened to be in the area when it happened, and a member of Clan Vizsla would save the young boy and enlist him into their fighting corps. The organization he belonged to now was known as the Children of the Watch, and they were actually an extreme cult-like offshoot of mainstream Mandalorian culture. They followed the way of the Mandalorian, an ancient set of codes that really restricted a Mandalorian's ability to do a lot of things. For instance, if a Children of the Watch took their helmet off in the presence of another individual, they would lose their right to wear that helmet. The Children of the Watch also were supposed to help every Mandalorian that they ever ran into. Aside from never taking off his helmet, Djarin seems to have avoided many of the more toxic beliefs and behaviors from this cult that would limit his fighting abilities. But you could argue that his immersion in this cult has really cut him off from mainstream Mandalorian society. He kind of is ignorant and unaware of a lot of things going around in the galaxy. When Djarin met the Night Owls and Bo-Katan, for instance, he was shocked that the Mandalorians had their helmets off, and the Night Owls, on the other hand, immediately judged Djarin as an extremist because of his affiliation to the Children of the Watch. But as the Mandalorian TV series goes on, the good-natured Djarin slowly begins to strip away his rigid beliefs and replacing it with a new set of codes that were created through his experiences and encounters with other people. But that ideological background Djarin grew up will never completely desert him. He was willing to do irrational things like save Baby Go-Gurt and draw the ire of the entire bounty hunting guild and empire as a result. Djarin is a true hero in every sense of the word, an irrational hero that oftentimes gets in trouble because of his beliefs, but such individuals will also attract like-minded fighters who will follow him to the edges of the galaxy. Boba Fett was cloned, raised, and trained by the best, Jango Fett. His mentor was both his father and identical twin, a weird relationship we rarely see outside of ancestral time-traveling families. Jango Fett wanted to teach Boba Fett the ways of the Super Commando Codex. This was a bounty hunter or mercenary code created by Jango Fett's mentor, Yaster Muriel. It was based on the ancient Mandalorian code. Unfortunately, Jango Fett would lose his head when Boba Fett was just a young boy. Boba Fett was trained well at the time, but emotionally still a child. Following the death of Jango, Boba would try to get revenge on his killer Mace Windu, but would end up getting caught and sentenced to prison. He would be surrounded by his father's former colleagues who both tried to mentor him and also sort of looked up to him. Such was his father's influence in the industry. It was on the streets and in prison where Boba Fett would learn to be ruthless and do whatever it took to survive. In many ways, Boba Fett lived up to his father's legacy. Jango Fett was known for being all business and a very professional bounty hunter. The experience of falling into that Starlight Pit has significantly mellowed Boba Fett out. In this second stage in his life, Boba Fett is now looking for a bit more stability and seems more tactical and strategic in how he approaches situations. He no longer wants to take orders, he wants to be the one giving them. It should also be noted that while both individuals have a killer instinct while on the job, they also try to avoid killing people for no reason. Djarin, however, has gone out of his way to spare multiple individuals' lives, whereas Boba Fett seems to be a bit more eager to pull the trigger. Djarin was a pretty standard Mandalorian bounty hunter up until he received a very interesting job from the Imperial Remnant on Navarro, which paid him Beskar, or Mandalorian iron ingots. He was able to use this rare and prized metal to commission an entire suit of Mandalorian iron armor that was nearly indestructible. Good high-quality Beskar, properly forged by a Mandalorian armorsmith, can turn away repeating blaster bolts from most weapons and even high-powered sniper rifles. The armor could even turn away lightsaber strikes for a period of time. Along with his indestructible armor, Djarin also enjoyed using the Ambin Phase Pulse Blaster for disintegrations, an IB-94 blaster pistol for more casual firefights, dual flamethrowers for close-range action, a long Beskar spear for fighting off lightsaber-wielding freaks, and of course the Whistling Birds for when you're surrounded by a bunch of individuals with your pants down. He also carries a vibro knife and some flash charges and detonators for bonus points. On the Razor Crest, Djarin also keeps a small arsenal of weapons in case what he's carrying on his body isn't enough. He would also eventually acquire a jetpack, which greatly increased his mobility. Boba Fett's armor was directly passed down to him by Jango Fett. Now, some individuals, mainly members of the new Mandalorian sect, have labeled Boba Fett as a fake Mandalorian. Some have claimed that his armor is made out of cheap Duraplast, kind of like what the Stormtroopers wear. But this clearly is a suit of armor made out of Beskar and probably some Durasteel. Now, its design might be a little bit more out of date. It was probably produced well before the Clone Wars. And the armor also seems to have less coverage than Djarin. But we've seen Cobb Vanth take a pretty close-range shot to the chest wearing this armor without much of an issue. Now, Boba Fett usually uses an EE-3 carbine rifle, but he also had a hidden wrist laser, along with rocket dart launchers that came out of his knee pads. He also had a flamethrower and vibroblade tucked away in his wrist gauntlets. He also utilized a jetpack for maneuverability, although his, unlike Djarin's, had a rocket attached to it as well. Now, Djarin would be what we call a tank back in the World of Warcraft days, and Boba Fett is more like a champion-style DPS class. What does that mean? While Djarin was considered a world-class bounty hunter by the guild, against tougher opponents or multiple opponents, Djarin actually struggled quite a lot. He wasn't the most skilled fighter or strongest individual. He wasn't really good at putting away enemies either. He didn't even have that much firepower for a Mandalorian. But what he did have was a lot of toughness and the ability to take hit after hit until his opponents were completely worn down. This is largely due to the fact that he has an almost brand new Beskar armor suit on him. So Djarin is all about defense and finding weaknesses and openings in his tired enemies. Also, because of his ability to track followers and close friends, Djarin is never really fighting alone. He usually has backup in one way or another, and they always save the day. Boba Fett is getting on in years. He's also probably suffered quite a lot being stuck in the Sarlacc pit. He's not as flexible and as fast as he used to be, but the Boba Fett we see now is much tougher and a smarter fighter. When we see him fight without armor using just a cycler rifle and gaffy stick, it's very clear that Boba Fett is a next-level fighter. His awareness on the battlefield and ability to efficiently move and flank his enemies is next level. He's also surprisingly sneaky. I think it's very possible that whatever juices were injected into him while he's in that Sarlacc pit probably made him stronger. We'll actually do an entire video talking about this. Boba Fett also has a lot more girth and bulk to him now, which kind of makes sense. When a lot of older fighters lose their speed and agility, they just focus on getting bigger. There's also a sense of confidence in Boba Fett that's undeniable, especially when he's in full battle armor. He really does remind me of a Predator from the way he moves and how heavy each step he takes seems. Now, compared to the average person, Djarin is an exceptional fighter. He's a world-class bounty hunter, after all. But Boba Fett is in a class of his own. He's almost like a superhero. He's borderline Jedi-level type of fighting skills and abilities. And I think Djarin's reliance on his equipment and his armor is a huge weakness. And while he might be able to withstand a beating from Boba Fett, if Boba Fett really wanted to kill him, I don't think it'd be that difficult. This guy's all about brute force firepower, and he has a whole lifetime of knowledge and experience passed down to him from Jango Fett on top of whatever he learned in that Sarlacc pit. And he also learned more things from the Sarlacc pit because Sarlaccs apparently absorb the minds and experiences and knowledges of all of their victims, and then they shoot it into their new victims. It's very confusing. Okay. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our coverage on the book of Boba Fett. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.